Hello and welcome back to the Full Cycle Ottawa YouTube channel. Again, my name is Josh and today we're going to be adjusting the headset on this Cervelo. Alright, so for those of you who don't know, the headset is these two bearings at the top and bottom of the head tube on your bicycle. And that's basically what your steering is functioning on, two bearings in there. So as this gets loose, you might notice some knocking in your headset or some looseness. So riding over bumps, or especially on a mountain bike, if you feel that kind of knocking as you go downhill, that can all be caused by the bearings not having enough preload in them. Alright, so to get started, we're going to take this apart so that we can have a look at all the different pieces inside this headset, and we'll check out how they all work together. We want to start by loosening these two stem bolts, and then we can take this top cap off. And again, I'm holding the fork here as well. If you're doing this in a repair stand, your fork and front wheel might drop out. I've taken the wheel off this bike to take the weight out of it, so it shouldn't fall. Just gonna slide this out. Then we can take all the spacers off, and then we'll take the cover off. And so we'll start at the top here. We've got this little ring, and then our upper bearing, and then it just sits straight in the frame. Some frames have a pressed in cup. This one here has what's called an IS headset, or integrated. So the bearing just sits right on there. The bottom is the same. So again, we've got our bearing here, and this guy here has a crown race that's essentially molded into the fork, so it's not a separate piece like on mountain bikes or many other hybrid bikes. So while you've got the fork down like this, you could actually go ahead and re-grease your headset cups. So we'll just wipe out the old grease, just in case. You know, if you get any grit in there, then that stuff's gonna make some noise in your head tube. It could make some creaking. Just give that a little clean. And then you can put some grease into the headset cups here. Just gonna put a little bead and I'll spread that around with my finger in a second. I'm gonna do the same thing up under this one. And I'm gonna do a little bit on the crown race area. And I'm just gonna spread that around with my finger. And then we'll get our bearings in place again. So I've got my upper bearing. It's already got the compression ring on there. And we'll slide this guy up. And then the dust cover. As many spacers as you require. Before we move on and put the stem back on here, I'm just going to take a second and highlight the compression plug in here. So unlike a lot of mountain bike and other hybrid bikes, a bicycle that's got a carbon steer tube requires a compression plug. So this guy here works a little bit differently. So if I unthread this, it looks more like this. So it's got two angled pieces on either side that sort of wedge that in place inside the center. I've had some bikes come into the shop with loose headsets, and no matter how much you tighten the top cap, it just doesn't tighten up, and that's sometimes caused by these guys here lifting up a little bit. So if the compression plug looks like this and it's not flush to the top, just loosen it up a little bit, slam it all the way down, and then you can just tighten it in when it's flush to the top of the steer tube. So most mountain bikes and hybrids do not have carbon steer tubes, and on all of those styles you would be using a starnut such as this. Even some road bikes that have carbon lowers on their fork, they still end up with an alloy steer tube, and again, in that scenario you would be fine to use a starnut. Now we're ready to put the stem on. I'm just going to slide this guy over. And again, you see this gap that we've got here. That's really important, because if the top of this compression plug is flush to the top of the stem, when we tighten this, it's not actually gonna press all those spacers and tighten up the bearings in the headset. So having a little bit of a gap there is important. And again, sometimes it may be that you don't have enough headset spacers and you just need to add another 2mm spacer to be able to take up any play in your headset. So now as I tighten this, I kind of do it by feel. There's not really a torque setting to do this, although it is going to be a low torque. You know, I can still feel a little bit of play, so I'm just going to snug this up a little bit more. You really don't want this bolt to be too tight. By tightening that, you're compressing your bearings together. So if you tighten it really tight, you're gonna wear your bearings out super, super quick. And your headset's not gonna spin very nicely. It's gonna be really tight and rough. So you wanna avoid doing that. So we're just gonna snug that guy up until the bearings are tight enough that they're not wobbling around. A trick that I like to do is if the bike's up in the stand, you can really feel the headset bearings, especially with no wheel on. The wheel adds a lot of weight and then you kind of lose the bearing feel. But with no wheel on there, you can really feel how tight the bearing is, so you kind of know if you're going a little bit too far. If the bearings do feel too tight, you can just back off that bolt a little bit and then you're gonna be all set. Now, one thing I should mention as well right now, if your stem bolts are tight, it's not gonna allow your stem to slide up and down the steer tube, and it's not gonna let you adjust your headset. So if all you're trying to do is tighten your headset because it's loose, don't forget to loosen off these 2 bolts and then tighten up your headset. Otherwise, you're just forcing this and tightening up against the stem, and it's not gonna adjust those bearings. One of the tricks that I really like doing, I do this daily. I don't usually adjust a headset like in the stand floating. I like to put the bike on the ground. And what I do is I hit the front brake here and I give it a little push front to back. Even if there's a tiny amount of movement, I'll feel these 2 surfaces kind of sliding against each other. And so you'll tune into a much smaller issue. Once you find that just right tightness on your bearings, like just where you can't feel that sort of front to back play, I like to just crank the pressure up just a little bit, like another 1/16 of a turn maybe, just to add a little bit more tension in there so that as you ride the bike and hit potholes and bumps and stuff, under higher forces, your bearings aren't going to be moving around, and you're also going to keep your adjustment a little longer as well. Next up here with the bike on the ground, we're just going to line up our bar, get our wheels straight, just kind of do this by eye. There's no special trick or tools, and then we'll tighten this in place. Okay, so now we've successfully adjusted the headset, and hopefully you at home have as well. Hopefully this video gave you the confidence to kind of approach that repair on your own. If not, you know, our doors are always open. You can come by and talk to some of the guys here and we'll help you get sorted out. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time.